Shining, shining like a diamond.
Welcome to my 7-day personal Facebook Live challenge. You know, saying that sentence by itself is a challenge. Thank you for joining me. If you are joining me live or on replay, I am Lilyvette Rodriguez with Align by Design. And I am going to ask you to do me a favor. When you have a chance, can you go to my Facebook link, Align by Design Coaching, and like it so that it could grow organically. Today, I have a absolutely phenomenal gal who we are going to be spending the next couple of minutes just having a nice conversation on a subject that, you know, could be a little bit of a rub the wrong way. It is Lizette Reboredo with Divorce in Kindness. And I'm going to bring her on so that she can introduce herself, share a little bit about herself, and then we're going to dive in. Welcome, Lizette.
Hi, Lilyvette. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this very special occasion. And I don't know what you want me to say about myself, but I am Lizette Reboredo, and I am a certified mediator, certified by the Florida Supreme Court of Florida. And I work as a collaborative attorney as well as a mediator.
Wow. So in addition to being an attorney, you said a collaborator and a mediator. So if you can just those who are joining us live or on replay, what's the difference between those three? Attorney, collaborator, mediator.
Well, as far as an attorney, right? So an attorney is just kind of the umbrella, and then attorneys practice in different ways, different areas of law. My chosen field is a family law attorney. So that means I help people mostly going through divorce situations, but also paternity. I help people with postnuptial agreements or prenuptial agreements, things of that nature. And a collaborative attorney is a way of practicing family law. So it's a process that is not litigation. So I don't go to court anymore. I help people reach resolutions, and that could be as a collaborative attorney or as a mediator. And as a mediator, I have a completely different role where I am a neutral person. So I don't act as an attorney representing one side or the other. I work trying to help people reach a resolution as a neutral person.
Okay, so the information that you're going to be sharing with us is going to be general in scope. Obviously, you practice law in Florida, but I would imagine that, well, not I would imagine, the information that you're going to be sharing with us are just really good tips for couples that may be finding themselves, especially considering divorce. But before we get to that, what made you pick the law? Because I know that when you went to college, you were a philosophy major. So how did you go from philosophy to law?
Well, I was a psychology major.
Oh, psychology.
Close.
The other P.
Yes, yeah, very similar. So, Lilyvette, you know, it's funny because I always, as far as I can remember, I always knew I was going to be a lawyer. And if I've asked myself that very question many times in my life. And I think it goes back to when I was a young girl, I used to always have a position to argue. So the adults in my life would always say, oh, this one's going to be a lawyer, or you should be a lawyer because you always have an argument for everything. And I think that stayed in my mind, and somehow it became what I knew I was going to be. So I never really wanted to be anything other than a lawyer.
That's hilarious. So your skill for debate came in very handy, right? Whoever makes the best case or the best story or the how you present the facts can make all the difference in the world, right?
Right, right. And I'm sure it was a source of frustration for my parents. But
That's funny. That is funny. But you know, the unfortunate part is that you will find yourself, and you have found yourself in scenarios where it can get pretty contentious, not just with other attorneys or whatever, but even within the couples, right? Because there's so much emotion involved in this process. So, what have you experienced in your years? Because at one point you did, your practice did involve some litigation to transition yourself into mediation, because now you choose not to have to go to court, correct?
right, right. So yeah, for many years, actually too many years, I litigated, and I saw really all the destruction caused by litigation. And yeah, I always explain it as litigation. It's almost like a snowball rolling down the hill. It starts off in a way that is pitting one side against the other, and that snowball of hostility starts going down that hill, and it's very difficult to stop it until it ends in total destruction. And so having seen that in all my years of practice, and you know, even personally, I went through a divorce personally myself. So having experienced all of that, I really didn't like it. I felt I was part of the problem, and I didn't want to be part of the problem. I wanted to be part of the solution. And so finally, I had thought about it for many years, but I finally decided that I was no longer going to litigate, and I was only going to be part of the solution. And the way I could do that was by helping people reach an agreement as a mediator, as opposed to helping them fight in court as an attorney.
Well, you know, as soon as you said the word, you know, that I want to be part of the solution, I got goosebumps, because you rarely find a scenario, at least in my mind. I know that that's not true, because when you're going through a case, there's always going to be someone who isn't going to get exactly what they deserve. That could be positive or negative, right? But here you're talking about part of the solution. And I love how the name of your company projects that as well. Divorce in Kindness. How did that get about?
Well, you know, that was almost an act of showing that I was no longer going to be in fear. And I'll explain what I mean by that.
Wow, yes, please do, because that's like, what?
Right. So for many years, like I said, I really didn't want to continue to litigate, but fear held me back, right? Fear, I would hear that, well, yeah, but you can't really make a living as an attorney if you're not litigating, and things of that nature held me back from really putting myself out there as being, as I keep saying, part of the solution, and helping people come to a resolution. And so I finally came to a point where I was able to put that aside and say, this is really what I want to do, and I'm going to put myself out there as this is what I'm doing. And the people that don't see eye to eye with that philosophy won't maybe hire me, but that's okay, because I will reach out to others who do feel that that's valuable. And part of my mission is to put out there, you know, the possibilities that it doesn't have to be total destruction for your family. And so that name, Divorce in Kindness, doesn't attract everyone, I know, but it does attract the people that want it to be less destructive for their families.
Well, and it's also a way for you to weed out those who you do not want to work with, right? Because you just finished stating, not everyone is going to get it. They're not going to understand it. And I'm sure that those who do seek you out, that is definitely something that stands out to them, right? It's like Divorce in Kindness, even just out of curiosity, that really differentiates you. So did you notice that there was a shift in your business, right? Because some who are listening here live or on replay. They are business owners, entrepreneurs. And so what we have been discussing is sometimes some of these business shifts, or what you said, push ourselves through that fear to get us to the next level. So from a business standpoint, what did you notice were some of the changes, if any, that you experienced when you made this shift?
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely the clients that reach out to me are completely different types of clients. They already see the value in what I do, and they're looking for a better way to divorce or a better way to be co-parent and get through, the breakup, so that they can be good co-parents together. So I definitely saw a total shift in the types of clients that reached out to me. And little by little, it's been a few years now that I've started this particular name as my business name. And little by little in the community, I feel like I've become more and more known for being a collaborator and being someone who helps people reach resolution. So it has shifted really my whole business into that. And that's what I wanted. And I'm happy that that's what's happened.
So it's a way that both parties can feel that there's equity or balance between. It's not the situation where I'm going to get you, or this cutthroat, and somebody's going to feel that that they just haven't been heard. So would you say that that's a fair statement to say?
Totally fair. And it's funny because I have some friends who they almost like laugh at the name, like, oh, divorce and kindness, yeah, right, like that's a thing, like that can ever happen. And and I've had that feedback from friends and just people in general when they see the business name. Some people have had unfortunately a really horrible experience going through a very destructive and negative divorce. And so I totally understand why they have a hard time believing that it can be a different way. Mm-hmm. And to the naysayers, I understand, and I know it can't always be that way, but I think that we as a society have shifted somewhat, and I think that we, are looking at things in a different way, even before the pandemic. And so I think that the value of coming to a resolution and not focusing on the negative and just finding a way through the negativity is something that more people want to do.
Mm-hmm. So, and you bring up an interesting point, because it's not just the couple, right? If they have children, it has an impact on them as well. Does that play into some of your collaborative way of practice, or how you guide them? Maybe some of them have changed their minds because you've identified something in a very kind way that, while they knew it may have been there, but they didn't let it come up to the forefront, so to speak.
Yeah, I'd say a big part of doing what I do and the way I do it is because of the effect on children of the divorce process. And some parents come and they're very concerned as far as what the divorce will mean for the children, and what damage may be caused to their children because of a divorce. And from what I'm not a psychologist, even though as you pointed out earlier, psychology was my major when I was in college. I didn't go on the path of psychology, but I do work with a lot of psychologists and mental health professionals in what I do, especially in collaborative law, because collaborative law is an area of law that directly involves mental health professionals in the divorce process. Oops, sorry about that. In the divorce process. So, so what they say, what the mental health experts say, is that it's not so much the fact that the parents are separating and getting a divorce that damages the child, but the way in which they separate, the way in which they communicate, the interactions between the parents, whether it's in front of the children or when they think the children aren't listening. You know, children are very intuitive and they know what's going on behind the scenes, even if you try to hide it. And so getting divorced in a way that it helps you become or stay amicable is really what helps children be able to deal with the fact that their parents are getting divorced in a way that is positive and that they don't feel is horrible for them. So that is one of my main motivations. And I talk to parents about that constantly, about not talking negatively to anyone about the other parent, even if it's not to their child, but the child, again, may be listening, or the child may hear from a cousin, you know, that the mom or dad was saying negative things about the other parent. And so I talk to my clients all the time about that.
So another factor, I'm sure, is that when couples come to see you, they want to really talk about the financial impact that separation, or maybe they have to live together while they're still going through the divorce, and they may decide that for financial reasons, the timing is just maybe not good. How, as a mediator, does that play in the process of you being able to guide them, to help them, you know, just get through that process until they are in a position to financially do that, or that doesn't come into play at all?
That definitely comes into play. And in fact, right now I have 2 cases that I can think of off the top of my head where the parents are still living together because financially they're not able to move into different homes. And that is when I think it becomes even more important, the process that you choose, because imagine being involved in a litigation in court with attorneys, you know, fighting on the client's behalf and sending negative letters and motions and all of that. And you're living in the same household with this person. Mm-hmm. So, you know, what I do makes it almost possible to coexist in the same household while you're going through this process. And also I find that once you reach an agreement and you know who's getting what and how the time sharing is going to be, all the questions that are involved in a divorce, once you know and have settled those things, it has a calming effect. Where, okay, so now I can take off my armor because I'm not fighting anymore. I know what's going to happen. And so people are able to maybe coexist in the same household for a little bit longer until necessary, once all of the issues, the underlying issues of the divorce are resolved, even if they're still living together.
So you bring an interesting point in that you use the word amicable. And the Jason Hodge, who's joining us on Facebook, he says it's so important that the parents can choose to be friends or friendly to each other for the kids' sake, right? And that goes to your point of being amicable. Would we dare stretch it to, you know, just in your years of experience, have any of the couples been able to reach that status of friends from something that's so emotional, right, from both sides, but because they just realized that it was best for them to be apart?
Absolutely. You know, I have a client, and I told her when she told me this recently, and I told her I'm going to repeat that because it's just way too good to just stay between us. And what she told me was, and it's a little convoluted to explain, but I'll try to be concise. She told me that she had learned how to be a good divorced mother from her husband's ex-wife.
Wow.
So her and her husband were now going through a divorce, and they were my clients in a mediation. But as she explained it, is her husband's ex-wife, they had a child together, and their relationship was so easy in the sense that they were so giving to each other, and they really only dealt with, okay, they didn't care about who's supposed to have Monday night and who's supposed to have Tuesday night. It was more like, well, our son has this activity. Can you take him? Yes, no, okay, I'll do it. So they really focused on the child, and they didn't focus on what the schedule said and what the schedule didn't say. So they were very flexible. And she saw through the years of being married to her husband, how that worked for the child and how the child was really doing great. Meanwhile, her and her ex-husband did not have that sort of relationship, and they really were by the book, and it was a problem if anybody was 10 minutes late, and they went through a lot. And her son with that ex-husband was really struggling, and so now her and her husband were getting divorced, and they have a child together. Today's blended families. That's just the way things are today. And so that's what she told me, that she wanted to emulate what her husband's ex-wife was like now in this divorce. And so, yes, their relationship was great. We went through the whole mediation process, and they were really friends throughout the whole process. And even when they came in to sign all the documents, they left here, with genuine care for each other. And I think that that's going to be beautiful in the sense of their child is really going to benefit from that.
Exactly, exactly. And not have, as some children do, come away feeling that somehow they had anything to do with that divorce. And most of the time it does not. It's the parents, right? It's their mindset of how they're going to go into it, how they choose to be adults. I mean, responsible adults, not adults because of a number. So have you noticed, now that we're 8 months, almost going into our 9th month of this pandemic, a lot of couples have had to spend more time together because their jobs have shifted. They've had to work out of home, or the reason why they got married in the first place is because they wanted to spend more time together. Well, fast forward, that's exactly what's happening.
Right.
But somehow the story has changed. Have you noticed a shift in your business, or maybe the stressors that those are coming to you with as a result of this, or that really is playing a smaller part?
I'll tell you what I've noticed, right? So there were like little jokes, little memes going around, this line of divorced people or waiting to get into court once the pandemic was over. But haven't found that, but what I have found is people, I don't know that the pandemic itself and being together caused them to want to get divorced. What I think is there were underlying issues already. And then I believe that the pandemic has caused all of us, I think, to reevaluate our lives, where we are, what's important, what we want for our futures, what are we really doing here, right? And I think just like I was having those thoughts, for my personal life, so were my clients. And so I found a lot of people who came to me and said things along the lines of, I haven't been happy for the last 10 years, and it's just time to go forward with a divorce. So I don't think it's the pandemic being together, we got on each other's nerves. I haven't seen that so much as more a reflection of what has existed in the past and a willingness to want to let go of the negative and move into a better space.
That's an interesting point. Now, you're in your office right now, correct? You're
Yes.
in your office space. Now,
Yes.
I noticed that it looks very much like a living room setting. That's very soothing. Is that something that you deliberately did to just bring down and calm those emotions, or this was just a fashion design on your part, or was this strategic?
Actually, Lilyvette, it's this office that you're looking at right now. This has been years of me dreaming about this office. And finally, last July, well, was it last July? Hold on. Time is just a weird thing right now.
Right?
Right, July of 2019. So last year, I built out this office, and we moved in July. Of course, we were only able to use it until about January, and then it's been kind of quiet here. But so my dream was always to have an office that didn't really look like a lawyer's office, because people walk into a lawyer's office and the lawyer is sitting behind a desk, and and the clients are on the other side of this desk, so there's already a barrier between you. And so it's just a different feel. My vision was always to have a place where people would come in and be able to feel like a little bit of calm and relaxation and not stressed out, to try to make them feel that way. Already, the things that they're coming to talk to me about are not fun topics, right? So we talk about things that aren't pleasant all the time. But that was my dream, to have a place that made people feel at ease and calm and relaxed.
Right. And as Jason Hodges mentions, that it can be a very intimidating situation going into something like what you explained about, right? It's just like very formal, kind of an extension of a court. And
Right.
what you're doing is that you want to bring down those barriers so that people are more at ease, they're more comfortable. I'm sure you have found that when people are more comfortable, they are sometimes more willing to compromise and understand the other person's position to a positive result. Yes or no, or it doesn't make a difference.
Oh, absolutely makes a difference. And, when I'm mediating, that's one of the things I first try to connect with the individuals, because, when you connect with them on a personal level, they let their guard down a little bit and are able to really express what they're feeling. And so all of it plays into it together. And I think the environment that you're in makes a big difference too.
So as we start winding down this absolutely fantastic interview, you've given some really very good common sense, which is no longer common anymore, recommendations. You work in an extremely stressful environment. You do to not be at home. What are some of the things that you do to maybe decompress and not have that be an impact in your personal family life?
Well, truthfully, with what I do now, I don't feel that level of stress. When I was litigating, the stress was almost unbearable, where, I say the story that Sunday nights I would stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning because I didn't want Monday to come, so I would literally, the stress was just so much I couldn't even deal with it until I had to.
Mm-hmm.
But with what I do now, I feel a different way. So I feel good about what I do now. And to me, I come in and I really just feel like I am just myself, and I'm here to just listen and to try to get to the bottom of what's important to each of the clients so that they can reach a resolution that makes sense for them. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like intuitive, and I don't feel that level of stress. And even though I see I guess the most stressful part is seeing the pain that people are in, because no matter what, even people who want to get divorced, when it comes time to go through the process, they are in pain. And so they're grieving sometimes the loss of maybe the other person, or the loss of the relationship, or the loss of their dream, of their ideal of what their life was going to be like. So a lot of emotions are going through. And so sometimes I absorb some of that, but not so much anymore. And for me, what I do is really, I just go home and I'm grateful for what I have, and I read. That's my favorite thing to do, is to read. And I read, by the way, just romance novels, which is kind of weird for a divorce attorney to be reading, but that's what I like to read on my...
I love it. Romance novels from a divorce attorney. I mean, a divorce mediator. Oh my God. Right. It's like, why not? Right? I love it. I love it. So my last question to you, this just absolutely sounds, and I know it is because I know you. This is an amazing journey for you to have, number one, shifted your business in this direction, even how you surround yourself in this space. What advice would you give your future self as it pertains to either personal or business moving forward now that you've experienced these wonderful outcomes?
You know, I think I've always been super future focused, always focusing on what's next and what is coming and how do I get there. And I think the advice to my future self is stop, take it all in, and just focus on what is in front of you now. Because we've all seen in the past, few months that you don't know what lays ahead, and it really doesn't make too much sense to focus too much on that. And so that's the advice I would have for myself, is to focus on today, breathe and take it all in.
Excellent. So if someone is from the Miami area that may be in the market for your services, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can certainly reach out to me. My website is the same as my business name. It's www.divorceandkindness.com. And we're in the Dadeland area in Miami. And of course, you can find me online.
Excellent. Well, Lizette, I just so appreciate the time that you've shared with us here today. Some really good advice, and I'm looking forward to having you come back and do a follow up on this, right? To see how not just your business has evolved, but also how these circumstances, things that you've learned through the process, and share with those who are joining us live now or on replay. So I want to thank you for having been here this afternoon. It means a lot to me.
Thank you, Lilyvette. And I have to tell you, you are just the best interviewer because really, I mean it. Talking to you is like sitting down with a friend and just, having a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of wine and just relaxing.
I
And
appreciate that.
the questions you ask are really just very intuitive, and I appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, thank you. Well, before we leave, we want to give thanks to our producer, Tracy Allen. She's with Digital Marketing Supply. She's been the gal who's been putting up the websites and the comments. And so I know I could not have done this without her. So I just want to give a thank you to Tracy Allen with Digital Marketing Supply. So before we leave, if you can go to my Facebook page, Align by Design Coaching, and like it, I would greatly appreciate it. And again, I'm Lilyvette Rodriguez with Align by Design. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until the next time.